Good morning and welcome back to Black Bear Forge. This morning, while looking outside to find out what kind of useful scrap we might be able to use, I found some rusty round rod. This is 1/4 inch diameter round rod, so that's about 6 millimeters round. This piece is 38 inches long, so that's just about 30 millimeters shy of a meter. Doesn't really matter. I'm just messing around with this, and I thought I would try some spiral elements today. And this is what I ended up making, and we're going to show you how I made this. I'm not sure what you'd use this for. Think about it while we're working on the video, and if you have an idea what you would use this exact element for, put a comment down in the comments section. Me, I was just messing around trying to see what I might come up with, and it's an interesting effect, but again, not really sure where you'd go with it. I did a few others just because I was already messing around, and these I might have better ideas for, but I'll talk about that later at the end of the video. So to get started with this, I did put a chalk mark in the center, and I'm going to start scrolling this up, and we're going to meet in the center from both ends. That should all make sense when we get to the anvil. So let's go to the anvil and let's get started and see what we come up with. So I'm going to start this just by bending about 3 inches of the end over. That'll just give us something to work with later on. And then I want to scroll it this way and leave that sticking out the side of the scroll. I want to wind it up tight, like a cinnamon roll. Oh, now I'm hungry. We want to do this until we get it rolled up into the center. As it gets a little bit bigger, it starts to go much faster. Putting it down there in the Pritchel hole helps you keep it all stacked on top of itself. I'm going to roll this up to my center mark. Now that we're up to the middle here, we'll turn it around and do exactly the same thing to the other side. We'll start this one by bending in the opposite direction, but I'm going to keep scrolling the same way, if that makes sense. Should be able to grab this in the vise and bend it around, doing it that way. Don't know if it's really any easier or not. It's not a bad way to get that first bit started, although I'm a little bit more open on this end than I was the other end. So let's see if I can kind of tighten that up a little bit at the anvil. Now, one problem with doing it that way is it's twisting a lot right here at this base, so I think I'll go back to the anvil. As we get close to this touching, I'm going to kind of offset this just a little bit. Hope that makes sense. And I'm going to roll the second one down. Until it's over the top of the first one. Try and clean up that transition where it goes from one to the other. Ideally, these are the exact same size. I'm not quite exact, but I think we're going to be okay. We'll certainly give you the idea of what we're going for here. The next thing we want to do is bring this up to a very nice even heat and then pull those two away from each other in the vise. The more even the heat, the better this effect will be. You really have to keep this thing turning in the fire to get an even heat. Then we should be able to just pull it out. Now you can tell my heat's not even. Those outer ones are hotter. So I'm going to have to try and reheat these end ones and do that again. Otherwise we're just going to straighten the outer ones without straightening those inner ones. So this is probably a place that doing this in the gas forge would have resulted in a much more even heat. Just leave it in there till it's all up to the same heat as the gas forge. Just make sure that you don't have it up high enough that you could forge weld, because you could accidentally weld these to each other. As this does start to expand, you can see better where it's going to need a little heat here and there. I'm just pulling a little bit of light pressure on here, and when it gets hot enough that it wants to move, it will start to move. There you can see it moving some. And I will just apply heat where it needs it in a more controlled manner here. I'll try and get this to all open up evenly. Just a little twist in this to get the end to look the way I want it to. So that's one side done. So that's just sort of a thing that you might use in some project somewhere. Something done much smaller could be a handle for a fireplace tool or something like that, but this is way oversized for that use. Just kind of a little fun thing to do, a little skill builder. Let's take another bar and do a single-ended one that's a little bit more useful and might have some ornamental applications. I'm going to start this one just with a simple taper that I'll round up. We'll start it in square. This is going to be much smaller overall. And by comparison to the first one, pretty simple. Forge it out to square, then octagon. Then we can round it up. This low heat, I'm not moving very much material. I'm just smoothing it, knocking the scale off. And just like before, I'm going to bend the end over, but this one I want just a little tiny bit sticking out there. The tip's going to deform some, but we'll fix it when we're all done. It's also important to turn that little point up when you put this back in the fire. That'll make you much less likely to burn that off. And I'm not going to run the blower very much. I'm just going to, enough to get the fire hot and let this just soak in the hot coals. I think that's probably all I'm going to do. I want to keep this fairly small and simple. I'm just going to lock that little point in there like we did before. Just like before, I think the torch ultimately is going to help open this up evenly. Need to get a bend in this. There we go. That thing can make an interesting little tendril for a project. Center that up a little bit better, I think looks good. try and center that up on the stem just a little bit better. Not sure if it matters that much, but oh, I like that a lot better. Just do a little light straightening. So that's just a little thing that might enhance some other project. So that's just me kind of messing around with an idea. I'm not exactly sure what you would do with this, but in a smaller size, one that you could actually grip, it might make a nice fireplace tool handle, so a lot fewer wraps or smaller rod, something like that. And then maybe not opened up quite so far. You could even run a rod down the middle and forge weld it to the two ends so that it was a little bit more supported. And then this might stay cooler around the fire or something like that. Hard to say, very similar to what a chipping hammer has for a handle, but this is much bigger. Whether I'll use this for anything or not, I can't tell you. It might get used for something. As I mentioned earlier, I think heating this in the gas forge so it was much more even would have been better. I probably would not have opened it up as far because everything would have been spreading right from the start. But in the long run, using the torch did give me that kind of control. And for the most part, it's not bad. There's a few little kinks and odd spots in it. But to be honest with you, I think trying to fix those kinks and odd spots are probably going to create even bigger problems because this kind of thing is really hard to correct. A little here and a little there you might get away with, but if you're trying to correct something that's really a problem, I think it's going to get worse and you're probably better off starting over. This little one I did is something I kind of like, and it's more what I had in mind when I started. I just thought I would start with the funky weird thing first and see how it came out. And I think it has some real application in various places. And for the mystery project that I'm collecting floral elements for, this will probably get used. And I did make a third one, trying out an idea that I thought was probably not going to be a very good idea. And in some regards, I think it's the one that came out the best, but I didn't catch it on camera. So maybe sometime in the future we'll revisit this idea. But essentially this one, as I scrolled it, I let it rise kind of pyramid shape. Actually started here and let it spread out, I guess, is more what I did. But I used the torch and took very controlled heats and bent it around so I could see the layers overlapping each time and getting just a little bit bigger. And that gave me a tighter spiral overall because I didn't have everything pushed down into the same plane. I hope that makes sense. Like I say, I think I like this one a little bit better than I like the other ones. But I didn't catch it on camera because it was just a thought of the moment after I moved stuff and was getting ready to shut the forge off. Thought I'd just go ahead and do it. But who knows, someday we may revisit the idea and take a closer look at that. These are just fun little things to do. It's just something to use up a little time, a little bit of scrappy material, and see what comes of it. You might like the results, you might not. You might just hang them on the shop wall and somebody say, well, how'd you do that? And then you're going to have to try and remember it. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. Hopefully it sparks your creativity and your imagination is going and you can see someplace you can use these things. If you got an idea what this ought to be, the way it is, there are lots of things we could do versions of, but if you think this belongs in some project and should be a specific thing, comment down in the comments section. No guarantee I'll do it, but be interesting to see what people think they would use this for. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button down there. Ring the bell next to the subscribe button and you'll get notifications when I make new videos so you don't miss any of the content. In the meantime, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, even if it's just trying out an idea, but be safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.